All right, everybody. There's a lot more people on this screen right now. It's not just Kyle and I, and there's a reason for that. Kyle and I get to talk about the Avs all day, every day. And with what just happened with the Avalanche, we have to bring some fans in and get their perspective. This has been 20 plus years since the Avalanche have reached this position. So, how are us fans, because that's technically what we all are feeling? So we got Lisa, we got Nick, and we got Brittany all on the episode for the duration today, and we are going to talk Avalanche, Stanley Cup, and maybe some cats and dogs, and who else knows what. Let's get to it.
You're Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making this your first listen of the day. Always appreciated. Follow the show on social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram. Questions, comments, concerns, opinions to lockedonavalanche@gmail.com. And follow the show over on our YouTube channel, over on YouTube. Everybody wave, not just Kyle and I. Hit subscribe, get notified when a new show goes live. And this is like the fan show. I think we might do a couple of these. We have like a calendar year before the Avalanche play next. So we'll probably do this a few times before game one, whenever that may be, against whoever that may be. Is it still 2-0 right now? Who's going to be the score checker?
3-0.
It's 3-0 now?
Mm.
We're pretty much going to have a 2-2 series between the Lightning and the Rangers. Nick, are you doing okay over there? Because I know you have...
Well, my wife is a diehard Rangers fan.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have some words when this is over. I can already tell. A lot of ice cream, a lot of warm shower feels. It's gonna
Do you want this episode to go like 5-6 hours long so you don't have to face that?
Yeah, could we just keep this like the 24-hour telethon thing?
But yeah, I mean, if you're watching on YouTube, you see 3 new faces here. These are people that we kind of interact with, especially Kyle on the game day Twitter Spaces. I think all 3 of you guys joined that pretty religiously. So with the Avalanche winning and getting into the Cup Final, we kind of thought it was a good idea to bring in, like we said, your average regular fan, like we all are, and kind of talk about the Colorado Avalanche. So why not? I mean, why don't we go around the room quickly? You can introduce yourself. I just threw out your first names in the intro, but why don't you introduce yourself, why you're an Avs fan, and anything else you feel like talking about. We can start with Nick.
Well, hi everybody. My name is Nick Bixel. I come from Provo, Utah, even though I'm living in Orem right now. Like I said before, my wife is a Rangers fan, but I chose to be an Avalanche fan because that is the right decision in all things. So no, just started out kind of there about the times when they won the Stanley Cup in 2002.
Mm-hmm.
I knew of it because I kind of read about it, but hockey still wasn't a forte of mine back then. But I said, you know what, since they won, they'll just be my favorite team if it ever comes to being a sport that I end up loving. That's just it.
All right. Yeah. All right. How about Lisa?
Hey, Lisa Gecki. I actually became an Avs fan, back around 2000. They were affiliated with Hershey Bears, and I live about 45 minutes outside of Hershey. So that cool. Year, the first year they were affiliated with Hershey actually won the Calder Cup. And from that point on, I was kind of hooked. I watched all the guys go up to Colorado. I'm a huge Eric Messier fan.
Okay.
And that right. was the start. Loved Mess, and been following Colorado ever since.
All right. We'll get to that. I want to know about some maybe like specific players that went through the pipeline from Hershey to the Avs, if you can remember some of those. But let's get to Brittany first. You can introduce yourself and why you came to be an Avs fan.
I grew up in Loveland for the most part. We kind of moved around quite a bit, but Colorado is where we claim home. I'm in Iowa now. I was blessed to grow up in Loveland through the first Stanley Cup runs and through the Broncos' greatness. So, I mean, my dad is a huge Broncos, Rockies, Avs. We are straight ticket. I mean, there's no
Yeah.
But yeah, so I've been a hockey fan pretty much since I could understand why my dad was so excited about it. And I play goalie. I'm kind of the resident goalie here. Obviously,
Yes, you are.
you'll find that I'm
Yes.
always on the goalies team. If it's not the Avs, I'm just cheering for the goalies or whining about the goalies. So yeah, I usually bring a odd perspective because that's
So
what
is
goalie has to offer.
it go without saying, like, why is your favorite goalie of all time, or is there some obscure goalie that you
Oh
just
man,
attached
he
yourself to?
was, and that was like forever. Like all these pictures, I'm sure you remember, like the post where they'd have like the picture of him like spitting his water out, and like my dad had all those. He saved every newspaper or like the little posters that you would get forever, and it was always Watt. And I just thought that he was so awesome. And in my old age and soft heart, the magic has kind of grown. He's just not a super great person. He's a goalie worth worshiping, but he's kind of a butt. So I love the way he plays though. But I don't know if I can call him my favorite anymore. I love Lundqvist and I love I like if I watch like 10 minutes of hockey highlights for all the best goalies that have ever been through the NHL, whoever's playing currently, I could be like, oh yeah, I love that guy. Because like I can appreciate every style. I love it. So
Cool.
I do not like Robin Leonard though. So that's my bugaboo.
Oh, really? Okay. All right. All right. Well, let's start with recent events, obviously, with the Avalanche going to the Stanley Cup Final. I just want to get reactions. Like, you know, how did you guys celebrate? Did you keep it together? Were you, were ACLs torn from celebrating too hard? We'll go around the room again. Nick, what was your take on that game, and just in general, like this long time coming for the Avs?
Well, my heart has not softened at all. Like it is still going at the speed of a weed eater right now, or weed whacker wherever you're from. You know,
They're called weed eaters. What do they call them? Weed eaters.
Weed whackers.
Whackers, yeah.
What do they call them? You know, just
Am I the
whatever
only
you
one
wanna
who
call
calls
them.
it a weed whacker?
No, that's what I call it too.
Okay.
I grew up with it, a weed eater.
Weed eater. That's what I've always
You're an eater.
understood it as.
Weed whacker sounds perverse.
Anyway, my heart rate is still through the roof, man, after what the events of yesterday was. And you know, just throughout that game you could tell both teams had a different mission, you know, and the ebb and flow was like this constantly, where one team was making a run, the other team was starting to lack, and then it just shifted, and it was a roller coaster. And it, like I said, my heart just throughout the entire thing couldn't take it. But to see that it was Lehkonen, of all people, that ships you to the Stanley Cup Final for the second time in a row for his respective teams that he's on, and hopefully we keep him for the rest of time. If that's the trend, it's a good feeling, you know. And when that overtime goal was scored, I jumped through the roof, and I'm surprised I didn't stub pinky toes on furniture, man. It was so great. I was so excited. I was so happy. I had to put myself on mute in the Twitter space just because I was screaming. I probably had neighbors, I know, in my apartment near me just beyond mad, but it was worth it. Very much.
You send the letter out to the neighbors in the apartment complex. I'm apologizing ahead of time, but there's a
big thing happening right now.
Yeah. Lisa, did you, at the end of the second, when it was 3-1 Edmonton, were you panicking at all? Because Kyle and I talked yesterday. It's like I wasn't panicking because I genuinely thought like this is not this is okay. You don't want to be down 3-1, but I thought this is something that they can come back from. They've done it before.
I have such confidence in this team. Even being down, in my mind, if they lost, it was okay. They were going to come home. They were going to win it on home ice in 5 games. As a Capitals fan, I have very little trust in the Caps. I love them, but I would have been like, that's done. It's over. That's the attitude I have. Colorado is just different. They they have the ability to come back, and you know that. And if they don't, again, you knew they were going to bring it back to Ball Arena and they were going to put it away. Even I think it was right before Edmonton scored to tie it up. I was saying in the Twitter space that, I'm going, no, I feel great. Like, they've got this. They're going to do it. And of course, no sooner than those words came out of my mouth, the Oilers scored. But going into overtime, I just had that feeling that they've got this. They're going to do it.
Overtime is so just up in the air. It's a coin flip for hockey.
You remember when we used to be scared of it?
Yeah, man. No, that's no lie.
Yeah. Going into the season, what was it? We were just like 0 for a bunch on the overtime. We're like, great. As soon as it goes to overtime,
leads in the third period and overtime.
Yeah, no, that's no joke. But I did. I'm with you. I had a good feel, and like you said, I just feel good about this team. I just feel like they will come out on top all the time. So I want to hear from Britt. What was your reaction, your feelings? Because you were messaging me like you were like insanely tense. You're like, I can't remember what you were saying, but
like my core is today.
Yeah.
I have also had the same concerns. My neighbors, one of my neighbors used to be a CPS worker, so I'm like, she's gonna think that I'm like,
oh man,
in my house a lot. There was so much food. My 7-year-old has watched entirely too many hockey games with me, so he goes nuts. And like my dogs were barking and very concerned with what was happening. And I just, I'm not even like a doomer, but and this is like, I'll say this way too many times, but kind of like my goalie perspective is like, I'm not okay with thinking we've won or thinking we've lost until like the clock has to be done. Like I never put a game away. And I don't want to say I didn't care, but I was totally at peace with whatever happened because I got to thinking to myself, like, we have no right to expect them to sweep in the Western Conference Final.
Right.
Yeah.
We have no right. Like, it is absolutely absurd that we would think even for a second that it's anything but a lot of luck along with a lot of talent to win in a sweep. So I was just like, what happens. And I hate overtime. And then it occurred to me that overtime is 5-on-5 and not because in overtime is like, let's just make the goalies miserable and see who is over first. Because that's like, to me, it's brutal for goalies. So it's, I'm very thankful that overtime is 5-on-5 because that's a game of goalies and it kind of would have been who let in the pooper first, I feel like.
So true. All right. We got to hear from Rock Auto and then we'll kind of look ahead, I guess. I don't want to get too far ahead, but this is where we're at with the Avs, like who we want them to face, what we think could happen. Another sweep. Hey, I didn't say it. But Rock Auto, with the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts that you need. Why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning and wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing the only brands that their warehouse happens to carry? You have a computer with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. Save time and money when using Rock Auto. It's a family-run business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. Prices are reliably low for every customer, so go explore their easy-to-use website today to find a solution to your auto parts needs. Get rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck right locked on in the How Did You Hear About Us section so they know that we sent you to them. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. That's rockauto.com. All right, Kyle, I know you probably have some things you want to discuss with friends here.
I really I wanted to get everybody's kind of like origin point, like what Lisa was talking about, like with the Hershey Avalanche connection. Like we're all in different parts of the country when it comes to this Avalanche fandom. And like before we get into the Stanley Cup conversation, do you have like that moment, that tangible moment that you decided like the Avalanche were your team? Like you could kind of like point back and like, I know Nick kind of touched on it with like the championship and just kind of, do you know that moment for you when it came to the Avalanche and who it was what player it was in that
or
moment?
something?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I remember seeing the just recurring images and video clips when I was younger, because like I said, I was about 6 years old or so, of Joe Sakic handing off the trophy to Ray Bork. And I was like, oh, that's a really cool trophy. That's it's a big shiny thing. That's cool. And I was like, oh, they must be really good at their sport. So go, deciding from that point on that it was, oh yeah, the Avalanche is kind of who I saw them victorious. I saw them able to hoist Lord Stanley's Cup. And I just kind of from that point on said, if, and it didn't even become a big, huge deal for me until I'd say probably 6-7 years ago, 2016 thereabouts. We all know that year.
Wow.
And
You stuck with them
how
through
I
that?
how I didn't jump ship
Yeah.
is quite miraculous, to be honest with you. But like I said, I kind of made that decision to myself, saying, hey, these guys, I saw them win the championship. So I'm just going to stick with it. And then from that point on, watching that season, I was like, okay, got work to do. And from that point on, the building came in, and when I met my wife, she was a big hockey fan, and then that from there it just carried forth, and it's not dying ever since. So,
Lisa, we'll go to you. You mentioned Hershey and the Bears. Where did your Avalanche love come in? Was it in that moment with Hershey?
It was, it was like the 96-97 season when they first came into Hershey. And actually that very first year they were in Hershey, they were easy to love because they won a Calder Cup. So
it's really easy to like a team when they win a championship immediately.
It is. It really is. But it was interesting because it was like the year before that Colorado had won against Florida. I actually was rooting for Florida in that series.
Blasphemy. All right, you're rooting for Florida.
Sorry.
You're also a
but I come back around. So they come into Hershey, and again, I come back to Eric Messier. He was up with Colorado for a good chunk of the playoffs, and me and some friends just, we started following it. They lost that season, I think, to Detroit, and I think from that point on, that was it. Like, I think there were like 4 of us, and I think we just kind of all fell in love with them at that point. So, it was even before they won the next cup, and, you watched a few guys go up. You saw Bob Hartley get called up, and
that's right. Yeah.
It was great. And yeah, it just kind of sealed the deal. When they won, it was fun to watch, and I still remember that night.
Brittany,
that's nice.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
It's awesome. What about you, Britt?
You to fall in love with a team when they're really good.
Yeah,
it is really easy.
But it's so nice to jump on and have that excitement, and then when you experience it again, when you're 20 years in, it's like that's my baby. Like, those are mine. Growing up, living in Colorado with that like Detroit rivalry, it was such an everyday part of life. And like listening to my dad talk is one of the things that and my dad always went on and on about like Peter Forsberg, and he's just like such a trooper. And I remember hearing my dad talk about like when Joe Sakic, I believe he like cut off the tip of his finger in a snowblower, and my dad's just like, this guy's like blowing his own snow. Like, these guys are like there's some down to earth dudes. And so just like watching the highlights of like Patrick Waugh windmill, like, you don't have to be a goalie, you don't have to be a hockey fan, like that gives anybody feelings. And one of the main things that solidified it, and I have no idea why, it was one of those like players that I fell in love with Jeff Odgers, and I have just adored him and his play. And then I'm not even like a super scrappy type like hockey fan, but there was just something about Jeff Odgers. Like, he worked so hard, and I just watching him play, like putting in every second. He was one of those players that like really lit up hockey for me, and just really kept it special, I guess. I don't know, but those Patrick Waugh highlights, oh my gosh, they
unbelievable.
Yeah,
amazing.
Yeah, when your dad heard that Joe Sakic's finger fell off, he threw you in the car, drove to Joe Sakic's house, and looked for the finger so he could keep
He
it
was
as
at
a.
the hospital at the time, so I'm sure
Yeah.
he was, figuring
Oh, did he
out how
really?
he could be involved. Yeah, he
Yeah.
was like a sleep tech there, so I'm not sure how he could find a way to be involved there, but he probably would.
He found a way, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. As far as this year goes and this team, do you? And maybe this answer will change. So how you say right now, I'm not going to hold you guys to it, but they haven't been there in 20 years plus. I think 21 years, right? So if they don't come out on top of this, and I'm not just hedging bets here, I'm just saying if it doesn't go the way that we want it to go, and whoever they face gets the best of them, will you still be happy that they made it this far, and will you look at it as a successful season, or are you that like hardcore fan where it's like, no, it's Stanley Cup or bust, and anything less than that, I'm not going to be happy, or do you have that like, I'm proud of the accomplishment that they've got so far, and I say I won't hold you to it because I know. You guys are active on social media and stuff like that, and fan bases can make people turn into things they don't want to be, and you want to win. Just bless you. They want their team to win even more to shut the other fan base up. So where do you think you're going to go when it comes to this final? Go ahead, Nick.
That's a good question. I would say,
Thank you.
Yes. So we save the mediocre questions for later, I guess. No, but I would say, the fact that you made it to the biggest dance, in my opinion, in sports history. In all of sports, I think there is no greater stage to perform on than the Stanley Cup. And I know there's, the World Cup, they got Super Bowl. There's a lot of other things that are amazing and big, but the difficulty to get to the Stanley Cup Final, just in and of itself, I think is remarkable. It's very admirable. So I'm quite happy with the outcome, unless it's the Tampa or something. But
yeah, I don't think anybody wants it.
I don't.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is it depends on the opponent, because then
true.
that kind of sways your outcome a little bit more. But for right now, I'm saying just the fact that you are able to say you are there, you have climbed the mountain, and you are now fighting the opposing team to plant your flag on the top of the peak, and that's it. So to come this far, I'd say is it's awesome. I think it's awesome to have, and the fact that we've made it here gives me hope that you can bring back signings from free agents.
Yeah.
To say, like, say Nazem Kadri, for example, you could say, hey, with you and because of you and what we fought for you, especially through these last couple of series, this is what we were able to accomplish with you on the team. Do you want to come back and run it back? So I think there's a lot of benefits that come with it. Just the fact that you are in the big dance of competing for Lord Stanley's Cup. So like I said, a win is ultimately what I want, and
Sure.
I'm sure that's just like everybody else. But I'd say it'll still sting very much if you go out with a loss. But I'd say that, to say that you were one of the finalists, you wore the patch, is super huge, and extremely happy to be there.
It's not huge for my bank account because there's a lot of jerseys that's going to be bought.
Mine
with
either.
That patch that you're
Mine
talking
either.
about.
Oh, it's going to be worse if the Rangers go, because that's 2 jerseys you're going to buy.
Oh,
That's true. What do you think, Lisa?
Oh, you know what? At this point, definitely just proud that they've gotten there. It is. I agree with Nick. I think just the Stanley Cup Finals is the hardest thing to get to in all of sports.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to play for that trophy, which is obviously the best trophy in all of sports, it's an accomplishment. When you look at where the Avs have come from, I think that makes it an even bigger accomplishment. I would be awfully sad if they lost.
I know.
It would sting. I'd still be proud. I think for me, the hardest part would be watching Tampa or New York raise the cup. I probably wouldn't be able to watch that. I might be a little bitter about that.
That's a good point. Like I never thought about that. Like when your team is in it, and if it doesn't go the way we want it to go, I'd have to turn the channel.
Yeah.
I just throw the Impractical Jokers marathon that's always on, just so I could laugh or something like that.
I always find The Office somewhere.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be able to watch that. I would be proud of the Avalanche, but I wouldn't be able to watch. I would admittedly be bitter.
All right. What about you, Britt? I have a feeling Britt's going to be like, no, I want that damn trophy.
And like kind of what you were saying, even more so than like seeing the other team raise it, the thought of like Eric Johnson and McKinnon, like seeing them win it, like it, oh my God, it makes my throat tighten up. Like it just kills me. And that's what, if we lost it, I think my only true disappointment would come if we lost it like in a manner where we beat ourselves, because I feel like we're going to be our biggest enemy. We kind of got a little taste of it last night as we started getting a little retaliatory. And I just feel like if they can maintain their composure, and it would hurt because they deserve it so much. The growth that you've seen in McKinnon and Landeskog, and I mean, Rantanen has his times, but I think he had a lot more growth to accomplish than the other two. But like Gerard, I mean, just from the past 2 years, I feel like they've just grown so much and they deserve it more than ever. But if they lose, I just am not here for doomers, because I truly believe that our window is as long as Makar, Landy, and McKinnon are healthy and alive, and Rantanen also. But the way we've seen Joe Sakic fill in the bottom six and depth and holes, I mean, I have every ounce of faith. Who had even thought Lehkonen was a thing prior to hearing that he was on our team? I mean, I know it's like an overused joke, but I have all the faith in the world in Joe Sakic. So I don't think our window is closing anytime soon, but I'd rather see 2 cups in a row than lose this year and win next year. But I wouldn't consider it a disappointment for me, but more so for them, because I truly feel like our core has just grown as people and players so much, especially
two players that were mentioned in that, Lehkonen, like I was hearing like he could be available for a trade, but like nothing solid, and mainly because he had another year left. It was like Montreal might not trade him this year, it might be next year. And for Joe Sakic to go into the trade season and say, we are not giving up our number 1 pick next year, because this year's already gone because of the Kemper trade. We're not giving that up, and we want someone that has some term. We don't want a rental. And for a team that's in the position that the Avalanche were in, to get all of that, dude is a genius.
I laid in bed last night thinking, what if we had taken Giroux? Like, ugh.
You're right?
What would happen?
I know. And he didn't overextend himself. He didn't say, like, no, that's the big fish. I want that name.
Yeah.
I believe he put an offer out there, and it was really up to Claude Giroux. He wanted to go to Florida, save some tax money, and go to a good team. I get it. But Avalanche, it worked out. It worked out for them. And then Nick mentioned Nazem Kadri. The way that this season has ended for him obviously sucks. Do you feel maybe? All right, I'll give you a maybe.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Thumbs crossed. How about
that? Thumbs crossed.
What's that, Britt?
If he doesn't play, even if we win or lose, does it make him want to stay? Because he wants to be on the ice when he wins. He cares, but he doesn't care about us winning with him off.
Yeah,
he wants to be there, and he's going to have just as good a chance next year.
Do you think he signs? Do you think he comes back because of the way this season ended? Because he likes Colorado? He loves the fact that they backed him and all this?
Exactly. And I'm biased, but I truly think that Colorado, when you listen to Manson talk about fangirl, about Makar, about the men he's going to be playing with, fangirling more than me, Colorado is what people want to be. And I know that it's biased, but I truly think people want to be there. And Kadri has gotten so much love, like from fans, players, even through the trials. I pray to God he doesn't prove me wrong, especially after that player tribute that he wrote, Tribune.
Mm-hmm.
I was not sold, and after reading that, it's like, and then the support he got through his St. Louis stuff. I mean, I hope he can feel it, because
I think he wants to come back. I think he'll take I think he wants an increase, but I
Oh,
think
for
he'll
sure.
take a little bit of a. I think it'd be one of those things where he knows he can go somewhere else and get a lot more,
Mhm.
but he might stay and take a little bit less to
Right.
stay with a team he knows is going to compete.
But I think all of that's conditional on how this season ends for the team. If there's a cup involved,
Yeah.
and his name's etched on it, I
Mhm.
think he might go for money,
Mhm.
like just to have somewhere to retire. But if that's still out there, I feel like this team has done so much, and the fans have done so much for him that he's going to come back and finish the mission with his brothers.
I think so.
Well,
I
he
hope.
can't play though. Do you think? Even if they win the cup, but he can't get in the finals.
That's where I'm at.
I feel like
He wants to
like
get on
he
the
wants
ice.
to come back. He wants to do it. He wants to be on the ice.
And he
Well,
wants sweaty and stinky and exhausted.
the finals don't start for another week and a half, maybe 7 months. So I think
Yeah.
he'll have plenty of time to
fine.
recover, and I think
Yeah.
he'll be out there.
He'll be fine.
All right. Well, we were guessing on what the Avalanche, how we would feel if they don't win this thing, but clearly that's not going to happen. So let's talk about what our feelings might be. I have two questions. We're going to come up with predictions for two different questions, but we're going to do Bet Online first. And betonline.net, it's your number one source for all of your betting stats and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, news, and odds, including this year's basketball championship matchup. Does anybody really care about that? I don't know. I don't. Does anybody in this room really care about
I mean,
that?
I
Go
went
Celtics.
to Boston.
No.
I went to Boston earlier
Yeah.
this, last year. So
Did you? Yeah. Is Duke in the final? I don't know.
yeah.
The NHL Stanley Cup Finals right around the corner, obviously. Major League Baseball, and of course, all of the latest fighting news from MMA and UFC to boxing. BetOnline is your continued source for all of your sporting wagering information, including live betting, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in the action. That's betonline.net, where the game starts. All right, three questions. So we'll start with, give me predictions on both of the possible outcomes. Who do you think, if it's Avs Rangers, what do you think it will be? If it's Avs Lightning, what do you think it will be? Go Nick.
So with Avs, and let's go Avs Lightning first.
Okay.
Just so I can get that one done and out of the way. If it does go to that series, that one might be, I would probably say that's a 7-game series. And only because Vasilevsky and the Tampa Bay Lightning are chasing 3 cups in a row. So they will be absolutely hell-bent on getting the 3rd cup in a row. And you have to go through Vasilevsky to do it. I will say, though, given the fact that Colorado does not lose on away ice, I think if they are able to steal one of the 2 games in Tampa, they win it in 5. So that's going to be my prediction for the Tampa series. I'm going to say 7 if they cannot win the 2 games away.
Okay.
And they do win it in 7 for sure. If not, they win it in 5.
Clearly,
we're not losing.
Come on,
this losing scenario is not a thing.
Okay.
And then Allie, honey, if you're listening, when the Rangers go to the Stanley Cup Final, that one I think is going to be a 5, maybe 6. And that's also one where, you have to go through Shesterkin, who is a Hart finalist and a Vezina, in my book, winner.
He's going to win it, yeah.
And there's no ifs, ands, or buts,
Okay. Yeah.
So it's pick and play on your Russian goalie, but I think the Avalanche have a lot better standing, especially with depth against New York, because they're still a very young team, and the fact that they've made it this far, I'm sure has even surprised them. And obviously they want to keep going and whatnot, but given the outcome of what's probably going to be in the next however long for the game, your series is tied at 2. You go back to New York, and that might string out to the bitter end. But I would say they seem to have a little bit easier time against New York because we have a few more veteran experience that have actually played in the Stanley Cup Final, as most recent as Artturi Lehkonen and as far back as Darren Helm. And I think that will be the ultimate decider against New York. Now, with Tampa Bay, I think the bigger thing, I'll jump back to them real fast. I think the biggest thing is going to be breaking Vasilevsky. Everywhere else, I think you'll be able to handle yourself. The physicality is fine. You know exactly what's going to come in with Tampa. You know exactly the game style they're going to play. In fact, you've played them both, and I believe we won both games through the regular season. Is that correct?
Against the Rangers?
Tampa.
No, Tampa. They lost the first one. Oh no.
I thought that was the shootout.
No, they did. No, they won that one. That was the first the 3-game road trip that was the one game they salvaged. You're right. So they did. Yeah. Yep.
So I think it's all going to be about finding Vasilevsky's weak spot, and if there's anything that Game 1 of that Rangers Lightning series proved is that blocker high side seems to be one of those spots. But like I said, if New York wins, you need to figure out Shesterkin, who is, in my opinion, a better of the two right now. So
and the Rangers are a fast team. The Rangers
and they're speedy. That's what comes with the youth. Youth definitely is the speed. So
and they got Revo.
Yeah. Yep. All right, Lisa. What say you for each potential matchup?
I don't want to play Tampa.
You want to play Tampa?
I don't want to play Tampa.
You don't want to see, like I'm back and forth. Like I don't care who they play. Like, but I kind of want them to play Tampa to prevent them from getting the third in a row. Right?
Yeah, I can see that. I just think they're hungry. They want that third cup. Mm-hmm. It would be great to steal it from them. They scare me, and I don't know what it is. They just scare me. I would take the Avs in 7.
What's that, Brett?
It's the 2 Stanley Cups.
Yeah.
Yeah. They know what they're doing. They know what they're doing.
So what did you say?
I would take the Avs in 7, though. I think home ice is key there. I would take them in 5 over the Rangers.
Yeah.
I see a lot of the East Coast. I see a lot of the Rangers with Capitals. I just think it would be hard. I mean, you obviously have to put some pucks on that, but I don't know. I just would feel a lot more confident playing.
I think most people feel that way. That if it's the Rangers, they feel like it's I don't want to say easier road, but I mean, if you make it to the Cup Final, like you're doing something right.
Oh, yeah.
So if the Rangers make it, they're not going to lie down. But I just feel like the consensus is if it's the Rangers, Avs fans are feeling a little bit better, even though they probably have the better goalie of the two right now. It's kind of
probably do. I mean, it's kind of be careful what you wish for situation.
Yeah, exactly.
At this point,
very well said.
Whoever you play is going to be good.
Very well said.
You just got to be confident in Colorado.
Right. Go ahead, Brett. What do you think?
I've gone back and forth, and I could pretty much switch every hour the more I think about it. The big thing with me with Tampa is I think a lot of it hinges on where Braden Point is. And we have no idea if it's really bad or if it's not that bad and they're holding out, because if they've proven anything, it's that they have faith in themselves and they will always bet on themselves. And the thing with them is, like, what's scary with them is, like, they know how to dig deep, even in the deepest of trenches, and that's scary. But sometimes I kind of feel like I'd rather play them, because the longer they go with the Rangers, I mean, there's no way that those guys are icing even a half healthy team. I mean, they have played so much hockey. It's just insane to think that they've made it where they are. But like everyone says, like, you never bet against them, but it has to end at some point. And with the Rangers, just out of pure pettiness, like, I do not want to listen to like the Makar comparisons nonstop. I just don't. And
you talk about like with the Makar Fox thing.
I'm already. I don't want to hear it. Even if we know that Makar is better, that will be talk. Yeah. Because it was in regular season. So, I mean, if we get into a stand, that's all they're going to talk about. And Lord knows that they're not going to say it in our favor. And the Rangers, honestly, if you look at them, it feels like almost such a direct parallel to us like 2 years ago, but with a good And what
Excellent
are we
point.
saying if we just had a really amazing Vezina in the pocket goalie? We probably could have won the last 2 years. So I don't know. I want to think that I would take Tampa, but then it's just that nagging, just can't bet against Tampa. But I'm just going to trust that whatever they come against, they're going to win. I think they can beat both of them. I think we're faster than the Lightning, but the Lightning, they just have that something. And I don't know, we don't know what it is. But if we play the Lightning, pray that Braden Point is, dead or something.
Not on the
I mean, he is. And that's another thing they've proven is that they'll do it with or without anyone. So
Yeah.
Braden Point is a very, very big factor. But we've never seen them falter the way that they have faltered. Vasilevsky has never faltered the way he has.
No.
Losing that second where they lose a game and they never lose the next one, losing 2 in a row, that may have rattled even the toughest, team in the last 20 years. So I don't know. I don't know.
Nobody's thinking.
Does anybody have Gerard Gallant on speed dial? So maybe we can kind of ask for a favor to maybe take out Vasilevsky, or
Yeah.
Well, not so
No,
he played this year.
Yeah.
No, he's
Sometimes it's like,
yeah.
who even is their backup? Like,
I don't,
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing though. Is injuries could also play a huge factor in that outcome.
Mhm.
we need them to
For their series, and then the one we end up going into.
It's 4-1 Lightning now. Oh, over.
It's over.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I read that a few minutes
I
ago.
mean, if they can beat each other up to 7 games, which obviously they're going to get a break too, but make anything linger as long as they possible. So,
Yeah.
and also wear Tampa's mentality down a little bit. Not that they haven't gone to 7, but
Nobody's thinking sweep. Wow.
I
I mean,
Kyle
Kyle wants to. So bad.
I've sat
Kyle
here
is.
quietly.
Kyle
I've
the
sat
Ruby.
here the whole conversation when you're talking about what will we do if the Avalanche lose. I don't think they are. I honestly, with this confidence in this team, my brain can't even think about how I'm going to feel in that situation because I don't think it's going to happen. If it's the Rangers, we could sweep them. If it's the Lightning,
We
we've
could
beaten
sweep
better. We've beaten good goalies all year, and we've talked about we've beat Fleury. We've done this before. Like
we beat Ingram.
we beat Shesterkin twice this year.
And I find that you're already hearing it from mainly Ranger fans of, let's see what happens when you're going to face a good goalie. Let's see what happens. And my response to that is exactly what Kyle was just saying. We've done it all through the season. And secondly, like, if you just want to talk playoffs, fine. It's not like the Avs are struggling to get through these series and beat these goalies that are not, Vasilevsky or Shesterkin. Like, they've got 2 losses in the postseason. So, like, what's your argument that they're going to 7 games? Because they haven't been. They've got 2 sweeps. So yeah, you can say that all you want. Like, that's fine, but don't come at the angle of like, well, the Avs are done when they face one of these 2 goalies. It's like, no, it'll be a little bit more of a challenge. But look what they're doing so far in the playoffs, and then go back even further.
They're beating them too. I mean, other teams have beat both teams with, inferior.
I mean, New York has gone to 7 twice. Might be 3 times.
Yeah.
It's
Exactly.
So did Tampa when they played Toronto. Bless their sweet hearts.
Yeah.
It's I just feel with what the Avalanche have done already this year, and we talked about depth, and like the sheriff he brought up, what if injuries play a factor? The Avalanche have proven it doesn't matter. It's next man up, and every man that's next man up, they believe the same mission that everyone on that top line does. Jared Bednar, Joe Sakic, it doesn't matter. If you are affiliated with the Avalanche as a fan, anything, you believe in this team, and it's not out of the realm of possibility to say sweep. Prove me wrong.
No,
I would think a
definitely.
sweep against the Rangers would be more. I think they're more
Feasible. Yeah.
feasible.
It seems so.
So if, and this is the last question, if they do win this thing, they can't. If they win it and it goes 7 games, doesn't matter against 2. They can't have any more than 5 losses for this postseason. That's crazy,
Disgusting.
right? So the other two Cup final teams, I think the 01 team had 6, and I think the 95-96 team had 7, more, maybe 9, because they went to a 7-gamer. They both had more. I know that for a fact.
Yes.
So if they win this, they will have the least losses for any Avalanche Stanley Cup winning team.
Isn't it, even if they go to 7?
If they go to 7,
Yeah.
they'll only have 5.
Yeah.
So does that make, if they win this thing, is this the best Avalanche team in Avalanche history? Nick?
I would say yes. And the reason because of that is, I mean, obviously the stats that, we were able to break the point streak, or the points record in this season, even though we had a really, terrible last 6-7 games of the season, we were still able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But I would
like so long ago, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was, before I even grew this beard out. But I think with what this team has, they are a completely different caliber team, a completely different monster when it comes to their playoff team. So regular season team, they did better by a point,
Mm-hmm.
right? So in all terms of the stats, yes, they were a better team than the 01 team. But I think this playoff run that they currently have, you've already beaten the previous record, and you haven't even played the first game of the Stanley Cup Final. So with that right there, I think it changes hands. As soon as you just start blazing through people, sweeping 2 series, and who's to say you can't get that third, regardless of the opponent. I think that because of this postseason, what has gone on and what we have gone through with injuries, or you name it, I think that this is the best team that the Avalanche have put out on the ice.
All right, Lisa.
Ooh, I have a hard time comparing, and
it's tough because it's like different eras. You know what I mean? There's a lot of time.
I loved that 01 team.
Mm-hmm.
I have my reasons for loving that 01 team, and I have my reasons for loving this team.
Mm-hmm.
I have to admit, though, I just think what this team has done all season long, the adversity, but just, they didn't lose like all season. When they lost, it was like, what?
Fire Bednar.
It just didn't. It was bizarre, and I don't know. It's tough. Maybe this team by that much. It's just
and
tough.
That's a good point. Like, it's not like if you want to say like, yeah, this team will be the best in Avalanche history. It's not like this massive drop off between like this team and like the 01 team. Like,
yeah, it's close. Definitely
very good. Yeah,
it's like a matter of wrapping my head around the fact that we have guys that are taking down records that were set back.
Yeah,
right.
And I think about how good that team was and how good, I loved Adam Foote. I had a cat who was named after Milan Hajduk. Like, I love that team. And when you think about those players, and they were great.
Yeah.
And now it's hard to think about somebody taking that team down.
That's another part of it, is like those are, Joe Sakic and, the Ray Bork moment.
The Raptor names.
Yeah.
I am almost defensive of them. Like,
exactly.
I mean, I clearly want this team to go on and do well, but I'm also kind of defensive of that.
Exactly. Yes. I think a lot of people are going to feel the same way. Like, no, that's when you think Avalanche, you think of those players. Like the guys we have now will be in that conversation eventually, but you're not taken away from my Joe Sakic or my Peter Forsberg.
I mean, I'm teaching that he knows.
And one thing,
Sakic. The other night he was watching the pregame, and I hadn't turned it on yet, and he comes out and he's like, "Mom, Adam Foote's on TV. You're missing it. You've got to turn it on. I've trained him well."
That's great. What were you going to say, Nick? You're following up that.
And one thing we do have to keep in mind is who's the GM. It is Joe Sakic, who was on that 01 team. So it's like you have someone from that era, that particular team, driving the ship of this team. So like
Very
I said,
good point.
you can really interchange them. It's kind of like saying who's better, LeBron or MJ. You know, they're both fantastic in their own respects, but
Yeah.
I think it just speaks volumes to Joe Sakic.
Oh, it absolutely does.
Yeah.
He learned well.
By the way, it's MJ by
1,000%, no question.
Yeah. What do you think, Britt?
Yeah, I mean, that's just tough because like that team is the heart and soul of like most people's love for the Avalanche. But and it's hard for me too because I'm like, I'll always overthink, and like it's so different now with the pay cap and the way you know, we can't just go literally buy anyone we want to. And I don't know. I feel like this team has gone through a lot of different adversity. I think that the adversity back then was a lot more like worrying about getting your face pounded in, but like the boundaries that these guys have to go around now, and you know, it's a tough time to play hockey. Like you cannot just solve things with fights, and you know, it's a rough world. I can't really answer. I'd have to appreciate them in different ways, but I mean, individually, I mean, Cale Makar in probably 2 years for the rest of his career will have no records to beat other than his own. And that's, you know, we're setting individual. So, I mean, I guess collectively you would have to say that this team might be better, but I think it's just a different world and probably are, but it does kind of hurt.
And it's
we need a goalie. We need a franchise goalie for it to truly feel that, you know, and I love Kemper, and if he can do it, then I am so ready to, but we have not, honestly, since Patrick Waugh, we gave all in on Varley, but like, who have we gotten to just worship? And we just haven't had a franchise goalie, and we need it for me to truly feel that hole.
Yeah. I so want it to be Kemper though. I
do too.
So like
this thing that ever lived.
Like, and see, like that's why I think I love Frankie so much, is because that's what I see in Frankie, is like that he could possibly be that guy you could rally around. You know, that doesn't have like the Arizona dirt on him. Like Kemper, like, you know, Kemper's got all this other, like Frankie feels like ours, you know, and he's always been right there, almost had that starting job. And like, I feel like to the points you were talking about, Brittany, I think that's why I cling to him so much, because like since Waugh, it's been like, we've had Jaguar in there. We've had, it's been just Abisher.
I was there for Abisher.
Yeah. It's
Pickard.
Greg Anderson.
Dude, I was big on him.
Yeah.
I was so upset. Like when we went into that Vegas draft, I'm like, just don't take Calvin, don't take him.
Yeah.
And he's the number 1 pick in the draft. I'm like, oh god.
And now he's
where?
I don't know.
Didn't he come back into the? I thought he was like with St. Louis or something like that.
Like some weird. The other day I was like, oh my god, but I can't remember what it was exactly.
Was he not the backup in Washington?
Who?
Lisa, do you know that?
When all the goalies started going down in Washington, was he not like the?
I don't know if he was
last one that they wheeled out there.
I don't know. LA is what I was trying to, but I think I might be thinking of that.
Does anyone have the book of internet open so we can flip through its pages instead of guessing?
We don't print the internet here. So.
You don't print the internet.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like, you're right. You're right, Brett. Like we keep bringing these goalies in that we want to be and have the potential to be that ace, and I still kind of feel that way about Kemper.
I was almost back on the Varley train this year. I'm like, let's just get him. Let's take him back.
Really?
Yeah. And then just like my groin started hurting, and they're like, he'd get to Colorado and pull his groin getting up.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
But we also had a dog named Varley, so we were very, very deep in Varley.
So TJ Oshie times 3 and Varley.
Yes. And then we had Varley and Decker, which Decker was after Broncos Decker. So that, and then after he was gone, we're like, no, actually, USA Hockey. I can't even think of her first name. The female USA Hockey player.
Brianna Decker?
Yes. So we're like, no, not Eric Decker, Brianna Decker.
Yeah.
She cool, man. She cool.
Yeah. All right, everybody. So we'll wrap this up, but genuinely appreciate you guys jumping on here. And I know you'll be in the Twitter spaces that Kyle holds for every game, which anybody can join. I mean, the numbers have been going up and up and up for that in the playoffs, which we expected to happen.
Well,
but
the merry-go-round of speakers when it used to just be everybody could talk.
Yeah.
what you can't don't you have to limit it to like 5 people or something like that?
So we got a lot more people coming in every single
Yeah.
time, and new faces, new regulars, stuff like that. It's
You guys are the
Kyle's
OGs,
got his
so-
hands full with trying to drop and
Yeah.
add people just so they can share their 2 cents. But
Yeah.
it's amazing.
I poked my head in every once in a while, but I'm like, I get way too much into game mode where
Yeah.
I can't like even just drop my guard for like 5 minutes to go say hi to people. Like
It's okay. We know your kingdom comes via way of tweets. And
Yeah.
So we know your thoughts. Don't
Oh
worry.
yeah, no, I'm rage tweeting sometimes. So, but it's gonna be fun whenever it starts in the year 2057. It'll be fun. So
Any minute now.
Yes, exactly. But thank you, Britt. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Nick, for doing this. I'm sure we will do one in the off season because there's a lot of content to fill in those days. So if you're up for it, we'll have you guys back to do it again. Yeah. All right. Well, we're all looking forward to this, and thank you for making this your first listen of the day. That is always appreciated. Make it Locked On NHL your second listen of the day, especially the Thursday one, which I host with Adam Denker of Locked On Lightning. He so wants it to be a Lightning Avalanche final.
Yeah, no.
He is begging for it. So, but we think differently. So, all right, everybody, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see everybody tomorrow.